Go!
Hello, Ville. Terveisiä Australiasta.
Kiitos oikein paljon. How you doing, sir? You all right?
I am well. Did they warn you that I'm Finnish?
No.
No, they didn't. Okay, so it's a surprise.
No. What's the percentage?
100%.
Were you born in Finland?
Made in Finland, born in Australia.
Righto. Do you call yourself Finn, or do you call yourself a Finn or Aussie? Depending on the situation, I guess.
Yeah, a bit of both. Very
depending on your legal counsel.
Yeah. Oh, I like that Black Sabbath thing in the background there. That's cool.
Yeah, that's the educational moment of today.
Okay. Very cool. Now, thanks so much for giving us some time today.
I'm super sorry for being so late. That's all my fault.
Okay, I'll blame you. It's all good.
Please.
Now, I don't even know where to start. I mean, obviously, you had over 25 years with him. Now you've brought out a solo record. Can we go back to the start and let's talk about the beginnings of him, say around that 1991 or whatever it was?
Oh, it's you know, I grew up with the lads. You know, Miguel, the bass player, and Linda, the guitar player. We went to the same school. So I met Miguel when I was probably 10 years old, and already then we started jamming a bit. And I've always considered it to be very important that bands are like, it's like a brotherhood, that you're very tight on an emotional, musical, and all sorts of levels. And I grew up, you know, if you think it's 25 years in him, and we started when we're barely teenagers, you go through a lot of stuff, you know, so, you know, your testicles fall, and I turned from King Diamond into this, you know, silly Pete Steele wannabe, but it was quite the journey, and such an important one that once, you know, I never had the, well, I was, to put it the other way, when we finished back in 2017, after those 25 years or so, I really felt that if there would be the phantom limb syndrome, that I would wake up and feel this ache of losing that brotherhood or whatever it was. But I woke up feeling very relieved. I felt that we sort of like did what we came here to do, and I'm super glad that we didn't continue to a point where you have to get the lawyers involved. So it was very amicable, and we still enjoyed music, and I think the last tour we played was the sort of like farewell tour, was great because we knew that's going to end, but we weren't at each other's throats. So it was a bittersweet tour, hopefully both the audience and the band. So but a lot of twists and turns, you know, since the 90s, you know, as all the bands, you know, we were doing 4-track cassette demos at that time, and we're trying to look for a record company. And then, me being a huge David Lynch fan, I saw the movie Wild at Heart with Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern, and it had Chris Isaak's Wicked Game on it. And that was before the time when Marilyn Manson had released Sweet Dreams. So it wasn't usual for a hard rocking act to play a song from a different genre. These days it's very commonplace, and it doesn't feel as special as it did back then, because it was sort of sacrilege. And but through recording and playing that song, we kind of found our own sound, the balance between the balls to the walls AC/DC thing coming together with the more melancholy and melodious aspects, I'd say. So so that was hugely important. And through that cover we made, we also got a record deal. So we signed a local deal and recorded our first an EP, our first album, with which we were able to tour for the first time outside of Finland back in '98. We toured Germany, and bit by bit we started expanding the territory like dogs, you know, pissing in larger circles.
That's one way of putting it.
Indeed, I'm a dog lover, as you can tell.
Now you've got a very, very eclectic mix of taste of music. Obviously, you know, you cite things like Black Sabbath, Duran Duran, Sisters of Mercy, Typo Negative. Very, very similar to my sort of taste here. I found this just before.
Oh wow!
The Wild Boys 12-inch single, which I've still got. the extended mix.
That's
I love that song. It's my favorite Duran song.
play it with pride, as you
Oh,
should.
I don't even know if it plays. It's so old.
Oh, fair enough, fair enough. Yeah,
It looks
yeah, yeah.
cool.
It does. It does. Yeah, I should get, actually. I don't have any of the 80s, because that was the Duran stuff, because that was the time when I was taping stuff, so I was killing music.
Yeah.
And it was at the time when I was just a wee lad, so it was
Yeah.
I had older cousin, and she used to record tapes for me. I remember I had a C cassette of Thriller on the other side, and I think Whitesnake and Rainbow on the other.
Yeah.
So that's maybe where it comes from as well. The fact that I think that I also dig black metal, and then I dig reggae, and I've sort of tried to figure it out why I'm gravitating towards so many different things. And one of the main reasons is that I really adore conviction. If the artist really believes in what they're doing, and it comes from an undiluted, pure place, then the genre doesn't matter as much.
Exactly. I mean, the 70s and 80s were such a mix of awesome music from all sorts of genres, so it's a great mix.
Well, yeah, I think so too. The 80s, because that's the decade I sort of like, I went to the record store for the first time, and so that was right in the sort of like the informative years, the ones that very sort of like set the mold, musically speaking, and it's still a decade I go back to, and I did with neo noir a bit. There's quite a sort of new wavy guitar jingle and jangle sort of The Cure bits and bobs, and then some of the synths are very Depeche Mode, and that's all very, very intentional, because via music I can also be closer to my idols. So I don't want to, or I hope I'm not just a bad, carbon copy of of whomever, an artist that has been here before, but hopefully it's just an cocktail of all sorts.
Yeah,
all sorts.
You wear your heart on your sleeve. We'll just leave it leave it like that. Now, I want to go back into the late 90s when talk about Finnish rock metal. So in the late 90s, obviously there was this big movement in Finland. There was yourself, there was Nightwish, there was Children of Bodom, and you're all starting to get quite big. Finnish bands were never really that big before in the rock metal scene. Obviously, you had Hanoi Rocks and bands like that previously. What do you think drove that scene and that new era of metal or rock from Finland?
Well, it's probably international labels all of a sudden being interested in Nordic countries.
Yeah.
Perhaps it started from Sweden. They had their Entombs and great, especially metal acts. And Norway had later on the black metal stuff. We had Beherit. We had all those genres were happening in Finland at the same time. But but especially the record industry was really taking its baby steps when it came to international recognition. All the record companies say that there's no way of you succeeding in the realm of music if you don't sing in Finnish. So it was. I think bands like Impaled Nazarene and Stratovarius and a hardcore band called Terveet Kädet, who still tour in. That was Max Cavalera from Sepultura. Loves them today. Yeah, so there's been these little weird artists that have always been quite cookie and left to the center, and that might be the second reason, is that I think most Finnish bands have always been a bit weird, maybe a bit too weird for the public consumption. And we've never been sort of like able to we're not entrepreneurs per se. We can't do what the Swedes can do very well. They're very good at marketing their music, and they've been. I think ABBA had something to do with that. So it helped them out build the whole industry, which we didn't have as Finns. So yeah, it's that was a wild time, and it felt that we're sort of like exploring the unknown and like sort of being on the moon. Small steps for us, but huge for Finnish. Sort of like the scene. And of course, there was a lot of other bands as well that maybe didn't become as internationally recognized, that were hugely influential in the scene in Helsinki when it all happened. Yep,
that's it. Very sad to hear about Alexi Laiho's passing a few years ago.
Indeed. I got the chance to sit down with him a few times. He was quite a solitary person. Then they were touring quite a bit, and he also lived, I think, in California quite a bit, and then in Australia.
Correct.
So so he wasn't around that much, but yeah, he a young chap, but he lived quite a hard life, and he lived fairly fast, so I'm glad that we had the opportunity of having such a interesting individual amongst us for such a long time. So I think that his stamina was actually quite good, considering how long he'd been doing it. And by it, I mean not only the excess aspect of rock and roll, but he was living quite fast. He was working a ton, and he was dedicating himself to the music and touring especially. So it can wear a person out, and yeah, we're all saddened. We still are. He left a big hole, and he was an important fella in the whole whole Finnish music scene.
A very, very big part of the Finnish metal scene. But life goes on. Now, the main reason, obviously, for our interview is that you're going to be coming to Australia soon for a tour for your new album, Neon Noir. Can you tell us a little bit more about the album? Obviously, it came out around about 12 months ago now. You've also done a tour with Black Veil Brides in America. You've done a cover song with Black Veil Brides as well, Sisters of Mercy, Temple of Love. It's been a big 12 months for you.
Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff going on. I started working on the album when him disbanded. I wasn't really sure whether I'm worthy enough to carry the torch of Black Sabbath anymore. So it took me a couple of years to pick up the guitar and start working on new ideas. And when I did, it was late 2019, and all of a sudden we started hearing about this pandemic thing from China, and I had recorded what I considered demos at that time of 3 songs: "Run Away from the Sun," "Salute the Sanguine," and "Saturnine Saturnalia." And I was hoping to have those songs so I could I'll be able to play them to possible new bandmates, try to figure out what we would do with different musicians. And then the pandemic sort of forced my hand and painted me into a corner, and I ended up working, doing the album literally solo from my home space, and while having Tim Palmer being the co-producer, the sort of like overseer from afar. He mixed it based at his place in Austin, Texas. And Tim Palmer is a fellow who produced and mixed quite a few albums for him in the past, and he's got a very eclectic taste. He's done work with Sepultura. He mixed Pearl Jam's 10. He worked with David Bowie's Tin Machine. He did, if you remember, Cutting Cruise, "I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight."
Great song.
Big pop songs. That was his first mix.
Yeah,
like his first proper mix. Wow. And so he'd been working on tons of stuff I adored, and tons of very weird, different kinds, from jazz to metal to everything in between. Yeah. And it was great that he was on board. Sort of like helped me out when I was completely lost in the woods, as they say. And it was a long while to get everything together. During that time, I was also looking for a record company, which was hard because you couldn't meet up with anybody. So it was all Zoom. And I couldn't really put a band together because you couldn't really spend time together, physically speaking. And so it took a while to get the live band, get the record company, and then there was a huge backlog of at the vinyl pressing plants. So we had to reserve 8 months to get the vinyl out, and that's the reason why we had to wait for a wee bit. And to be able to be sure that when the album is released, it's not going to be only digital. It's going to be in all possible formats, because I'm so old school that the ones and zeros are not tangible for me. And as you know, at times the albums disappear. There's some new companies buying licensing rights, and all of a sudden some classic albums are not there. Yeah. So if I really care for something, I want to be able to hold it in my hands. And so vinyl and the CD was very important. And when that was out 12 months ago, approximately, we started touring. We played 120 gigs last year, a lot of festivals, and we did 2 tours in North America. The other one, as you said, with the Black Veil Brides, and I did a bit of cameo, or was featured on their single. Yeah, sang a few lines of Temple of Love by the Sisters of Mercy, and I've probably forgotten something, but it's been fantastic. After the pandemic, especially when stuff slowed down so much, and it felt like a black hole, and I still do feel that the time of the pandemic should be sort of like taken out from calendars and from you know, because it's weird when you saw people after the pandemic. It was like it felt like you saw them a week ago.
Yeah.
You know, and there's been like 3 years in between, and it was a weird time suck, as they possibly would say. And after that, everything started so quickly, touring and then being amazed by the amount of people that have been coming to see the shows and all sorts as well. So it's like there's quite a few younger people who never had the chance to see him live, and they're there, and there are people who seem to gravitate towards the new material more than some of the him stuff. So
Yeah.
it's been very interesting, and it's nice not to feel like you know, a worn out jukebox in the corner of a pub. So it's nice that if there's something semi-new I can still offer musically, or something semi-interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been wonderful, and it truly, I think this the fact that we're able to play Australia and New Zealand as well, sort of like seals the deal, as it makes the whole tour to feeling a proper world tour. But we always had a great time in Australia. We never spent that much time over there with him. We played there maybe 4 times, and usually it was around Soundwave, I think, and the festival. And I have very fond memories, and you know, it's a good yin and yang, you know, between Finland and Australia, I think.
Yeah.
There are a lot of similarities, but there's a lot of differences. The whole vibe and how the sun looks and feels, and the color, it feels different. And after this, we've had a beautiful winter. It's been like a winter wonderland. A lot of snow. It's been -20, -25. It's great to be fly over in March. You know, it should be around 30. So so it'll be fantastic. You know, I'm really waiting for that to happen. And you know, fingers crossed there'll be people attending, and you know, we're able to rock their socks off if they're wearing any.
Yeah. No, it's great that you're still making music and that you're coming to Australia. A lot of bigger bands from overseas seem to skip Australia, or Australia's the last thing on their list, because we are obviously a very small minority when it compared to European tours and North American tours. So it's nice for someone like yourself to, you know, want to come to Australia.
Yeah, it is super important. It's because if I think some people, you know, believe the accountants more than themselves, and that's okay. That's a valid point, and I know that we all need to make bread on the, you know, get the bread on the table one way or another. But I think it's mentally and inspirationally, it's very important to be able to visit all sorts of places, and also that's a way to keep yourself valid, because you can never be successful somewhere if you never go there.
Exactly.
It's like the classic thing regarding UK bands in the States.
Yeah.
You know, we would have broken it. Oh yeah, but you didn't. So you got to go there, and you got to show your face, and you got to hopefully convince people that you're still, you know, you're still valid regarding what you do. And that's what we're traveling. You know, it's just it'll be great. I'm sure. It's always been fantastic. I'm really hoping for it you know, it's a long couple of weeks or a few weeks to go.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, there's a lot of hungry fans here eager to see you again. You haven't played here since Soundwave 2014, if memory serves me right. You played in 2010 Soundwave, and I actually saw you guys in 2008 in Australia. So it's 16 years since I've seen you perform. So we're very much looking forward to it. We're hungry.
It should be good. We're playing a lot of hymn songs as well. So we're doing like zigzagging between the old and the new.
Okay, yeah.
So it's not as if I'd be just performing the new stuff and then it'd be like an encore of 3 hymn tracks.
Yeah.
But I think it makes sense, because the new music is not musically so far off from the hymn stuff. It's continuation of the same themes, more or less, and imagery and so forth. So so it just makes all the sense in the world to play Neo Noir and then play Right Here in My Arms and then play, you know, Heart Full of Ghosts and then do Join Me in Death or whatever. It's just it sounds great for me as well, because I get to hear the old songs from a new perspective, because it's such an important dynamic, the arrangement and the sort of like the which song goes where, and you can change the whole atmosphere quite a bit through that. And via doing all that silliness, you know, I think that it will hopefully keep people, you know, watching the stage as opposed to heading for the toilet after the first two numbers, you know.
I'm sure
Unless you
people,
have a good reason, of course.
yeah, I'm sure people will be very impressed with a mixed set list of both them things. Yeah, I think our time's pretty much up. Thanks so much for chatting with us today, Ville.
Kiitos.
Really appreciate it. Kiitos oikein paljon. Hopefully we might run into you when you come to Australia, and we can I can practice my Finnish a little bit more.
Yeah. That'd be great. Just come on banging on the dressing room door and say hi. That'd be lovely.
I will. Thank you very much, Ville. You take care.
Cool. Catch you later. Thank you.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.
Thank you.